When you add dimensions in your drawing, they may not look right out of the box. So you can modify different settings in the drawing and in the dimension to just make it look good or just to make your drawing clean. And that's what we are going to explore next. So here I have the baseline dimensioning right here and the chain dimensioning here. Also, we have simple dimensions added here and here. Now, if you want to modify the way dimensions are added, then you can select the dimension. And now this dimension panel will show up, and once again you can select different settings in this panel to just modify the display style of dimension. For example, let's say we want to modify the way this is displayed and we want to just make it horizontal, and we don't want to change any other dimension in this list. So select that, go to leaders, and here we have custom text position. Just activate this and change the way this text is displayed. Now let's say we want to display it horizontally no matter what the orientation of leader line is. So select this horizontal, and now the dimension will look horizontal. Just click OK, and here we are. Similarly, you can change it for this one. So select leader, custom text, and make it horizontal and click OK. So in this way, you can just modify it. Also, you can select your dimension and just move it around in your drawing simply just by moving it like so. So you can just move it wherever you like. Now, if you want to also, I'll just move it maybe here. Now, if you want to also change the dimensions in set, for example, this baseline or this chain dimension, then you can do that. By default, this set is linked, which means if you change any dimension in this set, all the dimensions will change with it. So if you want to, let's say, break the alignment, then select the dimension which you want to break, then right click and select break alignment. And this dimension is now broken. And if you move it, it will move independently. Now, if you want to align it again, you can just select it, delete it, and now select any existing dimension which is already linked with the set, right click and select add to baseline. And now specify the point where you want to just link this dimension, and here it is, it's added again. Now, not only that, you can also specify new points. For example, let's say we want to just add a new dimension maybe here. So that's added. Now, since we have added new dimensions here, the spacing is now changed, and as you can see, it is not uniform. Now, if you want to once again make it proper, if you want to just properly space these dimensions, then select any dimension in this set and then click on this flyout. Now, this will bring this kind of palette here with all the dimension related options. Now, this thing here is the dimension spacing value, which is set to 1. You can increase this value or you can decrease this value. Now, increasing or decreasing this value is changing the dimensions for all of these, but not for this gap. I mean, this gap is huge and so is this. So though it is working, it's not working for all the dimensions. So in order to just make it work for every single dimension, you can click here and that's going to reset all the dimensions. So click, which is auto arrange the spacing. So it will automatically space every single dimension in this set evenly. So if I click here, now it will space it evenly. So there we are. Now, after evenly spacing this, if you feel like the spacing is less or maybe more, then you can change it here. For example, maybe let's just make it 1.5 and press the tab key. Now the spacing is more between all of these dimensions. Now you can also change the way these dimensions are displayed if they are added in the chain fashion. Right now they are not, so don't select this option. This is mostly applicable for dimensions which are connected from end to end. In this case, it will just collect all the dimensions and put it on top of one another, which is of course not going to make sense. So I'll just reset it using this option, and to evenly space, I'll click here. You can also change the placement of text. So you can just click here to justify the text on top, bottom justification, or once again, you can reset the justification of text and the dimension and evenly space it as well. Now, these two options are once again applicable for horizontal dimension. So if it is horizontal, you can of course use that option. But for now, of course, we are not going to select these horizontal options. So basically, if you select left justify, all the dimensions will move towards left, right justify will move it towards right. Just like in this case, it moved to top or bottom. Now, there are also other options that you can modify. For example, again, if I select a dimension and go to this flyout, here we have more options. For example, this first one, here, if you want to convert it into a basic dimension, then you can select this add parenthesis, and that's going to add, well, this parenthesis. So basically, we have converted this dimension into the basic dimension. You can again click here to get rid of that option. Also, you can select this option to center the dimension. Currently, all of these dimensions are centered, but just in case it is not centered, you can click and it's going to center it. For now, it is not required. If for whatever reason you have moved your dimension text like so, then you can select that option of centering your dimension text like so, and it will just bring it at the center. I'll just uncheck that option. Now, if you want to make your dimension the inspection dimension with a slot, then you can click here, and that's going to make it inspection dimension with this kind of slot shape right around it. So that's again another way of representing the dimension. I'll uncheck this. Then we have offset text. Now this is especially helpful in situations where we don't have enough room for adding dimensions and we just want to add an extra leader line. So you can just select this and now the dimension will be added with this extra leader line. You can later select this leader line and just move it to a different location as well if you want. So I'll just go back to this and I'll uncheck this option. We don't want the leader line. Then we have the justification. You can move it to center, left or right. That is also not applicable in this case. Now let's see what these options are. Well, as you can see, we have 132, which you cannot change, and that is the actual value of this dimension. Now, in this case, you won't be able to change this value, but just in case you want to change it, you can do so from here. So when you select the dimension, the panel will show up and then you can select override value and specify a new value right here. So if you just want to change it, you can just add your own value right here. I won't recommend that. Always try using the actual part dimension. So I'll just uncheck this. Again, I'll select this and go to the flyout and let's see what these options are. So this is the text on top of dimension. And then we have in the flyout text on bottom. So text on top and bottom. Let me just add a few things here just to show you what it is. So I'll call it top text. And as you can see, we have the same here. It's added as top text. Now I'm going to call it bottom text. All right, there it is. That's the bottom text. This is the prefix and this is suffix. So you can add all these values right around this dimension if you want. For example, here, if you want to add a symbol, diameter or anything, you can just add in the prefix. If you want to add the symbol for unit, for example, mm, centimeter or anything like that, you can add it here. Top and bottom are simple texts that you may want to add. If you want to, you can just add it here. So I'll just delete this prefix and suffix. Now the next thing here are these. So we have the tolerance type. If you want to add tolerance, then you can select it here. For example, from this dropdown, you can make this dimension basic. And from this dropdown, you can change the precision of this basic dimension. So in this case, it is using the default precision, but you can just go to this list. And from here, you can select any precision that you want. I'll maybe select this 4 decimal places, and that's going to show up here in the drawing as well. Now you can also change it to something else like limit, and here when you change it to limit, it will show you the upper as well as the lower limit. Now you can also change the precision of tolerance, and this is just going to change it for the tolerance value. Now the same tolerance can be changed here. Actually, it is also available in this dimension panel. So you can just go to the panel and from here you can change the tolerance value. Now I'll go back to this one and here I'll change my dimension to none. I don't want to add any tolerance, and also the precision will be 2 decimal place, but instead of making it 2, I'll simply set it as a document because I wanted to use the settings specified in the current drawing sheet, and hence I'll use the document properties. Also, if you have a dimension style defined, you can select here and select any saved dimension style if you have it. Of course, we don't have it, so it's not going to show anything. So these are some of the properties. Now the same set of properties are also available for the chain dimensioning. So if you select chain dimensioning, right click, you will see that we have an option of removing that dimension from chain. You can also select this option, convert to base. So this will basically convert this entire set into base dimension. And you can do the same for this one. So here, let's say this is base dimension. We want to convert it into chain. Select any one dimension, right click and select convert to chain. And that's going to just convert it into chain dimensioning. Now you can also change even more properties. Now in this case, look at this. These arrows are right inside this drawing, but let's say we don't have enough room for adding arrows inside. In that case, you can select it and click on these grips. When you click on these grips, the arrow direction will reverse. Now the arrows are outside. If you want to once again bring it inside, just click on the arrow and the direction will reverse. You can also right click on any of these dimension, go to display option, and then you can add some display options. For example, right now it is already centered. You can select offset text and now we'll have this extra leader line, and you can of course just move it wherever you want. As this is linked, moving this is also moving all the other dimensions. Right click, go to display option, just uncheck this offset text. Again, I'll right click, display option, and then we have show parenthesis or inspection. So you can just select this to add a parenthesis or a capsule or a slot kind of shape right around the dimension with this inspection option. And as you're familiar, these options are also available in this flyout. So we have the parenthesis here and the inspection here, and also this is centered. So all these options are already available in this flyout. So that's how you can add the dimensions. Now, after adding these dimensions, I just noticed that this 22 unit was kind of cramped in a small space. So I'll just move it out just to make it look clean. And that's how you can modify the dimension settings.